Good day and greetings from Pretoria, South Africa. My name is Dr. Charles Cotter. I'd like to welcome you to episode 2 of Talking to the Titans of Training, which is an online conversation with some of the powerhouses in the training industry. This is episode 2. You'll recall from episode 1 we interviewed Derek Hendricks, and I've got a very special guest today, Graeme Lategan, who will be joining the online conversation very shortly. Let's just get the digital housekeeping out of the road. So if I could just ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you like the video, please click on like, and then also if you would like to notify me of any other titans of training, please leave a comment in the comment section of this particular video. So my name is Dr. Charles Cotter. I've got 19 years of industry experience in global talent development. And just to give you the backstory of talking to the titans of training, I often feel that trainers are undervalued, underappreciated, and certainly don't get the professional recognition and the accolades that they sometimes deserve. So this is by design, the whole initiative of talking to the titans of training, just to give an opportunity to showcase the career journeys, also the achievements, and also to salute and to celebrate some of the meaningful contributions that trainers have made to the global learning and development community. So at this point, I'd like to welcome my guest for episode 2, Graeme Lategan. Graeme is a distinguished trainer, international trainer with a global footprint, also heads up 2 training companies, GL Training and Consulting, and also Train Skills. And I'm sure you'll tell us very shortly about those 2 companies. Also, one of my trusted business associates. And I'd like to welcome Graeme. Thank you for accepting my invitation, and welcome to episode 2 of Talking to the Titans of Training.
Thanks, Dr. Cotter. It's so good to be again. Really, truly privileged to be interviewed by certainly one of the great titans himself. You are certainly making a great impact in training in the world. But yes, thank you. It's an honor to be with you on this platform.
Great. Thank you, Graeme. So Graeme, let's get straight into the online discussion, Talking to the Titans of Training. So perhaps you could just give us a quick overview of where it all started, the genesis of your training career, the how, the when, the who. I know that you have a very distinguished career, over 30 years of management experience, also in law enforcement. So training is almost like a second career for you. And if you could just tell us how you made the transition then from senior management position in the public sector, in law enforcement, policing, security, very decorated career. How did you make that transition to training? And then also, if you could just give us an idea of some of the mentors and coaches who in the early years who nurtured you, guided you, supported you, so that you can make this journey on this training journey.
Hell, that's a big question. But yes, thanks, Charles. Really, let me start with the last part of your sort of your question. And I was listening to your interview with Derek Hendricks. I'm much in the same field as what he is. For the most part of my life, I really never had any mentors and coaches. It was not a time when mentors and coaches were really prominent in industry, specifically not in government and in the industry that I was in. It was rather a self-discipline, sort of like a self-regulation approach. And sure, I made a million mistakes and went off the path more times than I wish to admit. I made very poor choices over many, many years of my life and wasted so much time, distracted often by sometimes meaningless quests and ideas. But, I write that off to a very young life where I was pretty rocky and fragile for most of my world. And, it was shattered at a very early age. So I had to learn very early on how to cope with life. So self-discipline really played a major role in my life. And I must then say along the way, there were specific people, individuals that really jolted my position and where I was. And I was almost very fortunate and lucky and perhaps very blessed to have them. And they were like father figures or mother figures for that matter, that helped me to sometimes just get, on the right path. I think it's my journey in this industry started when I was in the early years of the traffic department in East London. I started my career after correctional services, I then started a traffic law enforcement career. And I began putting in-house training programs together, simply to change the culture. You know, there was, as with everything these, there's a lot of cultural issues that go on in departments. And I wanted to change the culture of my traffic officers. It became a wildfire from there on. And long after me, to this day, they still have those training institutions in place. So I'm pretty privileged. And I think in 2012, I began to construct my formal journey to start this career, and I launched my consultancy in about 2014. And today I have mentors and coaches, you know, many of them that help me with my life, and I bounce off a lot of things off them, ongoing issues that I've got to deal with that help me to take my business in the right direction. So it was really and truly more self-discipline than anything else for me.
Right. So your journey in training formally started in 2012, and then you started your company in 2014. So we're talking about over the last 6 to 8 years. And I must be honest with you, Graeme, I don't think in such a short time period I've come across anybody in the industry that in such a short time period has made such a huge impact in the industry. I think what you've described, your resilience, your discipline, I think those are values that we instilled in you, you know, from the regimental, the military kind of environment. And I think they will stand you in good stead in the industry, because as you know, it's very cutthroat, it's ultra competitive. And I think those are good values. And you'll see later on, I want to just pick your brain in terms of what would you regard as critical success factors to survive and to prosper like yourself in the industry for over 8 years now. That's good going. I think it's tough for all of us in the industry, not just to survive, but also to prosper. So I think those are exceptional values. And I was particularly impressed by your comment about the resilience. I think this is, especially as we go through probably the toughest time. I've been in the industry for 19 years, and I can honestly say this is the toughest time period. The last 3 months have been very testing. And I think, like you've described, resilience is very important, that you develop that. And also you've imparted that experience with your training programs. I know with the emotional intelligence online program, the e-learning program that you have, you've really gone into storytelling mode and, you know, sharing your experiences and really trying to capture people's hearts in terms of understanding the importance of self-awareness and the resilience and the empathy. And that's very important. So thank you for sharing with us. So 2012, this new kid on the block, you've just joined the training industry. Fast forward to 2020, so 8 years later, what would you say are some of the career highlights? If you had to pinpoint 3 career highlights, I know you and I have had many conversations about your trip to Uganda and going to the source of the Nile, Niger, I think, or Ginger, I think that's the place. So I don't want to spoil it for you, but I suppose that is one of the highlights. But apart from that,
you're welcome to continue.
I obviously know you too well, but anyway.
Yeah, you do.
But what are some of the other highlights that you would like to share with us? And just to double up on that question, if you had to give advice to other trainers and aspirant trainers, the last 8 years where you've really prospered and you flourished in the industry, what were some of the critical success factors that you could attribute this longevity to?
Yeah, you know, in listening to the question, a whole lot of things run through my mind consistently. I'm not only an agile trainer, as you well know, even in my late stage in my life kind of thing, but certainly a lot of things jump to mind. And I'm prepared for the question, but I want to almost throw it on its rooftop. I think now one of my career highlights, and I'm sure many people think probably the same as what I'm doing, is now to earn money during this COVID epidemic, you know, to remain productive. So every day for me is almost a career highlight. You know, the whole change that you've now got to adapt to. So if I'm earning an income during this time, it's a career highlight for me, number one. But I'd like to get back to your question. You know, I think my first career highlight, and you had a lot to do with this, you know, many of the trainers, my peers, the people that I'm connected to now, my first career highlight, I would say, was the fortunate entry into the international sort of training platform. That came very quick for me. Normally people wait years and years. I mean, you know this. I haven't had hundreds and hundreds of opportunities, probably due to my geographical location, and that's fine. But at least I can say I'm able to have that status right now. There are very few trainers out there that can say that. Certainly in the mix of trainers and facilitators that are out there. I mean, there are literally probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of trainers. But at least today, you know, in these difficult business times, I can say I've sort of achieved that. It would have been a cracker year for me, Charles. I was preparing to hit the USA this year. Europe, I had a client lined up that was going to take me to those various venues, some of the Middle East countries as well. You know, with this potential client, of course, some African countries that I haven't been to, Rwanda, Mozambique, Tanzania. I know you and I were talking about Mali at one stage.
Yeah.
So yes, you know, I was really looking forward to that. I think my second highlight was probably the establishment of my training company. You know, that took the best part of 3 years and many, many sleepless nights, notwithstanding the financial commitments that came with that. I think my third highlight, probably, you know, my commitment to ongoing collaborations. You know, I know we've spoken as well a lot about that, and I do a lot of that on my platforms where I speak about collaborations with other trainers. You know, and the fact that I've been instrumental in creating this abundance kind of mindset to share and pass on other work when I had a lot in my arms. You know, it's not easy for us as trainers to do that. You want to perhaps do everything because it is survival of the fittest, so to speak. So, you know, I was very fortunate to have these assignments and that I could pass on. So this has humbled me. It's certainly contributed to my success and my longevity. And if there's something that I want to say to other trainers, you know, you have to have this mindset where you can collaborate and network with other people. You spoke about this with Derek, so I don't want to overshadow that. But
I don't think it's coincidental, Graeme, that both you and Derek could mention the same critical success factor, and I think it just amplifies the value of having this abundance mindset, this growth mindset. I think this willingness to share and to contribute and to pave the way for the prosperity of other trainers. And I think we need a lot more of that in this very ruthless industry, ruthless and unforgiving industry. So I think, Graeme, what I'm hearing is a new chapter started in 2012. And I know that you're very humble about your achievements with your training company, in particular Train Skills. If I'm not mistaken, you have accreditation with 15 different seaters. Is that correct?
14. I'm going for another 2.
Okay.
But I would have taken 15.
15 is a good number.
That was the sort of the you know, we don't. The whole idea behind that was before I started the training company, I became an assessor and a moderator. You know, to get onto the playing field, to build an audience, you need to establish some sort of expertise and viability in the industry. And I'm very grateful for that, because that has also carried me through this time as well, to some degree. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've mentioned it, COVID-19 has had quite a significant impact, not just on the country's economy, with all the related lockdown restrictions, etc., but it's also crippled the training industry. So again, a double-barreled question, if you don't mind. So how have you responded to these restrictions with regards to COVID-19? You did allude to the fact that just staying busy and productive and generating an income in itself is a career highlight. But what did you do when the whole COVID-19 global pandemic broke? How did you respond to this? And if you had to give advice to other trainers, people that are maybe struggling, you know, to continue to stay busy and active and generate an income during this very challenging and difficult time period, what advice would you share to keep active in the industry?
Yeah, that's you know, it's a very relative question in today's times. You know, the obviously COVID and the disruption in the industry has caused havoc. But for me, drastically and dramatically, you know, with a balance of negatives and positives for that matter, you know, not to mention the financial havoc which comes, you know, with this. I'm experiencing a lot of ulcers on an epic scale. if that sort of you know, brings some truth to the issue. I'm not immune to it. I don't think anybody is. No. You know, my personal life is very intertwined into my professional life, you know, Charles, you know, because of the you know, they extend into one another, so to speak. You know, what I teach, I must practice, and what I philosophize, if that's a word, what I philosophize on, I must believe in. And it's not always easy. And now more than ever, you know, I fail on so many levels simply because, well, my resilience is tested 1,000 times a day. I mean, you were speaking about that earlier. You know, my response has been mixed, really, simply because, if I can put it to you this way, we don't really have all the answers because nobody was really prepared, save a few massive conglomerates and really very smart people that, you know, really could really foretell or see what was going to happen here. Everything that can possibly said about COVID as I think has already been said, and people are starting to switch off, you know, if they haven't already by now. And of course, there are now other more sensational news events occurring on a global scale that is causing a lot more damage on, you know, than social distancing would ever do. So my response has been to assess my current business and life, and I think that's the advice that I want to give people. I've taken it to a very personal as well as a professional sort of mix. And I'm starting to minimalize quite a lot of things in my life by removing those things that I don't need. I'm cleaning things that I've neglected, certainly in business, for a very long time. You know, I have in the most taken my entire business online, which in itself, as you know, will not be the saving grace of my business or a similar one like that for that matter. But at the same time, I've gained massive skills. And that's another piece of advice that I can give people. Learn new skills because the teacher remains teachable. You know, but we must remember there's no metric, you know, we at this moment to determine if our model will be successful or not. We've tested it. I mean, you know, you're part of this whole process. In the meantime, you need to find an audience. And I think that's something that I learned from Derek. You've got to find an audience to generate, you know, the stats that we require. It's easier said than done, so that we can move to a digital platform, so to speak. So yeah, my advice, if I can just, for final thoughts on that, to the training community, is to seriously, really reimagine, you know, your offerings, but also to bring back and rejuvenate the previous and basic offerings that you had. Just change them a little bit to suit current and more agile and artificial intelligence sort of direction that we're going to, you know, this fourth industrial revolution that we are in at the moment. And I also want to say, stop making everything free, because we're setting a very poor precedence in the market. You know, we are saying that the economy is bad, and that's a mindset. We're saying that nobody's earning income. There becomes that's another mindset. And then if we give things away for free, we then make a whole business community almost entitled. And then you struggle with quality. So yeah, let's look at focusing on adapting the way we teach and meet a changing employee. That's really what I would like to advise my fellow colleagues in the industry, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, thanks, Graeme. Excellent advice. And I totally agree with you. I think we should start fixating on the new normal and start looking at the next normal. And digital learning is here to stay. You know that I'm a blended learning practitioner. So the market will reshift, and we shouldn't dilute our professional brand equity by giving away our professional services for free. I think it's career suicide, it's professional suicide, and we really need to guard against that. We're creating an unrealistic and unsustainable expectation that, you know, once COVID-19 blows over, so to speak, then your clients will expect you to continue to deliver the same training service for free. I think to your credit, I mean, we've been chatting since the whole outbreak of COVID-19 and the related restrictions and the establishment of the SNAP Learning Consortium with Derek and Dr. John, etc. And I think you were one of the early adopters. You very quickly transitioned to a virtual training model. You very quickly started rolling out a whole host of different learning programs, especially e-learning, short learning programs. I know, for example, I registered for your emotional intelligence program. I know that you're currently promoting your change management, and I think that's very topical at the moment. So I think credit for you. I think you responded very positively. You didn't get paralyzed like a lot of the industry and, you know, surrender to this virus. I think, like a deer caught in the headlights. I think you were certainly one of the early adopters, and you rolled out an online learning solution very soon after the whole restrictions of this COVID-19. So I think that was very inspirational. And I think also what's impressive about your business portfolio is the diversity. I think you're able to offer a wide range of training programs based on the market needs, the current market needs. And maybe it's an appropriate time if you could just give us a quick overview of some of the programs that you offer.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put up that slide. There we are. So I've got Graeme's contact details up. I also have his professional service offering. So maybe using this as a backdrop, Graeme, maybe you can just navigate us through what professional services you currently offer, what programs you're currently busy with, what opportunities are currently in your pipeline, and also how do we get in contact with you? If you could just share some of your contact details with us, and also your social media presence.
Awesome, thanks. No, yeah, the slide is phenomenal, as you can see it. That's my contact details. I'm regularly on social media. That's the platform of departure that I think everybody is really and truly using now. Although it seems as if you're drowning in a very large sort of pool of water kind of thing, because everybody is on these platforms, but that's where I find myself now. Predominantly on Facebook and LinkedIn is where I have professional pages and professional profiles. So you'll find me there regularly. My telephone number is on the screen right now. But just to give you an idea of what I'm currently working on, obviously, as you now know, I'm driving everything to an on-demand e-learning kind of process. And it's like you, Dr. Cotter, it's a blended approach. So what you have is a specific course that is redesigned, it's slightly improved, and it's peer-reviewed, but also goes through continuous change all the time, so that you ensure that you've got that quality meets the international stage, so to speak. Of course, shortened to accommodate a pre-recorded training course. I've gone with many of my sessions as a pre-recorded training session, which helps with people that are not advantaged when it comes to internet connection, data, etc., which is very expensive in these times as it is. So they have a link that they can subscribe to, or they get a link and then they can access the course that way. And then I provide live sessions after that, which has been keeping me relatively busy. I've also taken my business model to a more management consultant point of view now, because I think that's what businesses want during these very disruptive times. Training is part of my services, so to speak. So more advisory role for companies who cannot employ specialists like me, like you, like many of the fantastic titans that you're still going to interview. So in effect, that makes more economic sense for me. And that's really what I've done in terms of the services that I'm offering right now. So although it's online, I do foresee that a lot of our training will come back, but in a much more diluted sort of form, or in a diluted kind of way. And I think your very, very, very top trainers, the very highly professional, speakers and trainers and facilitators that really are subject matter experts, because that's what the industry wants now. They're looking for the top experts in the industry. And we've used that word or that cliche statement just too much. Everybody who is a trainer was thought to be a subject matter expert. And I think the industry is going to really and truly change that very quickly as we move into the next normal, the new normal, as you are speaking. Yeah. I think that answers your entire question, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, no, very good response. Yeah, cool. I will put up Graeme's contact details again at the end of this online discussion. So please connect with him on LinkedIn. You'll find him on Twitter, Facebook page, personal page, also business page. And I think there's a whole host of resources that are available. And I think Graeme's business model has shifted. I think Derek said the same thing. We should stop offering training programs and offer learning solutions. So I think the role of the trainer, the traditional trainer, surely even with a blended learning model, has shifted to being more of a performance advisor, as you suggested, strategic performance advisor ideally. And I think consulting is definitely, management consulting is part of your service offering. And I think to tap into Graeme's 30 years of experience and wisdom as a management consultant, I don't think you can go wrong in that regard. So I think it's very useful that you've transitioned to offering this digital on-demand learning solution. I think it's critically important for your longevity and future fitness, and also future proofing your business model.
Yeah.
All right, Graeme, let's move on. So it's now 2020. We've just hopefully completed this whole nightmare of COVID-19.
Oh, man.
Probably the worst year to actually break into the training industry. But that would be my question to you is, if you had to advise aspirant trainers that are maybe novices that would like to break into the industry or establish themselves in the industry, what advice would you give to them? And also, just to double up on that question, people like myself that are well established in the training industry, would the advice be the same? Is it a different set of advice? So the trainer that's trying to break into the industry, trying to crack the industry, versus the trainer that is well established, what advice would you share with them to get through this very difficult year 2020, but then also looking to the future 2021 and beyond, to continue to prosper in this industry?
Yeah, no, I think every industry has been asked this question, not only our industry, so to speak. But I think if I can kick off, just to go, into the question and sort of like just unpack it slightly, adaptation for me is going to be key. And as a management expert, which I really consider myself as, and when I do a lot of management training, I speak about that as the new sort of style, which encompasses leadership, of course, and all the other factors that go with it. So for me, adaptation is going to be key. You cannot continue, on the way that you did business. At any rate, if COVID did not catch you, the fourth industrial revolution will be there, will certainly be the death of you, simply because the training mindset is no longer a priority for business, not anymore at least. And COVID put a nail in that coffin very quickly. So automation will now happen lightning fast, because companies have realized that, that they're dealing with people who are ultimately risky at this moment in time. So go small is some of the advice that I would give current training businesses, in the modern day. Go a little bit smaller, get hyper connected to that mindset of collaboration, with experts that will be like an extension of your business, as opposed to trying to, surround yourself with so many employees and, permanent trainers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would really, that's the advice I would give to current, organizations. And of course, if that doesn't suit your model, well, then that's fine, but, you need people that are going to extend your brand and your image, for novice and new startups. Well, that's a touchy question. And I don't know if I'm going to be too direct here, but think twice before.
Word of caution.
Think maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 times for that matter, before you enter this industry right now. If you do not have an arsenal of stories to tell, that offer radical solutions to, let's say, new and demanding problems, is what I now call them, it is unlikely that you will find a platform from which to sort of deliver your training sort of career. But at the same time, take risks. I think this is a time when we can take risks, because we don't know the answers. Well, I don't know the answers for that matter. For me at the moment, it's trial and error. I don't know about you or any of the other titans, but to me, it's about trial and error. So take the risks. Without trying, I don't think you'll ever know, because disruptions, and COVID is only one of them, because disruptions, they'll continue through to the end of time, in my opinion. COVID is nothing but a little blip on our screen, and it's like a tiny little asteroid or a little iceberg for that matter. I know it's caused havoc, and notwithstanding the suffering that many people have gone through, and the pain and the loss of lives, but it's still small by any means of continuing disasters that will impact us as we go forward. And sadly, we need to focus to make the world a lot better, a better place. It's consistently interrupted, Charles. It's by destructive and stupid acts of people, if I can use that terminology, which, brings us right back to the start, or to start all over. That cliche, go back to begin kind of thing. We need to start progressing. And if you haven't got something very demanding, a concrete solution to offer a business out there, you're going to find it very difficult to get into this industry. And certainly for us that have been around for a long time, we need to adapt and change our mindset to offer more solutions to industry and to business, as opposed to just trying to improve their performance through training, so to speak. And I think we must be careful of creating too much work. You've often spoke about this in your training sessions, and I've heard you, and I've had the privilege to listen to them. That 80-20 principle kind of thing. It's extremely important that people realize that the way we do business now will have to change consistently, because disasters are not going to end. We're now moving into, I think, what are we moving into, the third or the fourth recession now? That's going to happen in the world. There's issues like droughts, poverty, hunger, lots of things that are affecting industry. They want solutions. We have to offer those solutions. So that's my advice to whoever else might be.
Well, I think that's excellent advice, and I totally agree with you. So to summarize at this point, I've made a couple of mental notes. As you shared your journey with us throughout this, training experience. So just help me, and you're welcome to add and build on whatever.
Sure.
But I think just to say that you have to be solutions focused. I think that's very important. You can't just offer a training program anymore. That's not good enough. It has to solve a problem. It has to be business valued solution. I think that's very important. You spoke about adaptability. You mentioned the word agile. I think those tend to go hand in hand. Very important that as trainers we are agile, we are adaptable to the change. Being mindful that COVID-19 is just a virus. It's just a current wave of change. And as you rightly pointed out, the next wave of change is going to be artificial intelligence. The change after that could be ecological. So we need to get future fit. We need to future-proof our business model. The only way to do that is to distinguish ourselves, look at differentiation. You mentioned specialization. I think very important as a trainer. We can't cast the net too wide anymore. We have to be subject matter experts, as you said. At the beginning of our discussion, you mentioned that we need to have this growth mindset. We need to have this abundance mindset. And we need to be good storytellers. I think more and more, as we've migrated to an online learning delivery platform, storytelling has become very important. So I think that's very important. Your brand equity, you mentioned that. Collaboration, you repeatedly mentioned the value of collaboration, surrounding yourself with like-minded professionals who can be a brand extension, who can really enhance your value proposition, your learning value proposition. I think that's very important. I know that you've given us quite extensive advice. I don't know if I've ticked off all the boxes. Is there anything else that I've overlooked that you would just like to amplify or accentuate? Any general advice that you would like to share with the industry as a whole, and specifically with trainers who might be struggling, not just with COVID-19, but just to position themselves or reposition themselves, how to realign their business model? Any general advice that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think we've covered quite a bit here, and I think many trainers will, or many shall I say, independent trainers for that matter, because your permanent trainers in companies have a company model. The trainers in the independent field have a much sort of like wider spectrum of information that they can share. But I want to perhaps just highlight being authentic. Being original. You said just to capitalize on that storytelling. Storytelling comes from your experiences and the mistakes that you might have encountered, and how you can help companies to ensure that they don't do exactly the same thing, or individuals for that matter, because that's really who we're speaking to most of the time. But to be authentic, to be very original, and to make those solutions really and truly be meaningful, but follow up. Service is going to be key now, Charles. It's a service in the industry, cost-effective service, ongoing service, relationship building is key to industry right now. So, and be very diversified in your offerings, because at the end of the day, that's going to mean it's going to help you at least to be sustainable in a very, very, very difficult industry at this point in time. Like any other industry is very difficult. We're not the only ones that are struggling, but I don't want to be negative about it, but there are ways and means that you can adapt and change the way you do business all the time. You can never do the same thing over and over. It's impossible. You won't, you just won't succeed. We're not going to sell face masks forever. At least I hope not.
Yeah.
Somebody suggested that I start selling face masks, and I said, look, that's not even my lane. I'm not going there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think it ties up nicely with what you said earlier on. I think it's, for me, been the consistent theme, the golden thread that you shared with us is to stay focused, stay in your lane, and try to capitalize on the tools that you have, the experiences that you have. I think it resonates with a lot of people, and just trying to be authentic as possible, because you and I have had many discussions in this regard. There's so much noise and clutter, not just in the industry, in the world. And just to have the ability to cut through all of that noise, all of that clutter, and just to stay focused, almost like laser focused on your optimized service delivery, your solution. And I think it's very good advice.
That's about the best we can do.
Yeah. Graeme, we're moving towards closing out, so I'm going to give you one last opportunity. I'm just going to put up your contact details again, just for those enthusiasts and fans who would like to jot it down. Graeme is very active on social media. Graeme is a dynamo, probably one of the most energetic trainers that I've ever met. And if as a final thought, if you could advise any prospective learner, if there's one program that he or she would attend, which is hosted by Graeme Lategan, which program would it be and why?
All of them.
Okay, can I ask you to isolate one program? What is your blue ribbon program right now? What is the program that you feel would add optimal value given the context? If there's one program that you would recommend, what would it be?
Correct. Yeah. No. Thanks. Yeah. I'm going to, perhaps before I mention the program, just tell you that any prospective learner who's trying to enroll in programs, certainly through their companies, etc., is to look for programs that are really going to help them to improve their skills in dealing with people, because ultimately people are going to be replaced by artificial intelligence on some percentage scale, whether we like it or not. I mean, we train this, this. So people skills are going to be key in the future. And that's one of the programs that I teach, obviously management in terms of supervision, management fundamentals, and it ties into emotional intelligence, conflict, etc., and all those programs. So management of people, for me, is extremely key, a key program that you can certainly now start really concentrating on. And even if you are a seasoned manager, many companies are finding themselves failing quite a lot because of their inability to be able to handle people, specifically in these times right now, the emotional context that's going on in the world, the balance, finding that kind of balance in the workspace. So people management versus emotional intelligence versus how to handle conflict and the ability to be able to change. Those four, if I can sort of tie them in. Just remember, the world is not a kind place today.
Yeah,
it's really not a kind place, and it's not going to get any kinder. And I think I don't want to cast fear, but be prepared on how to handle people going forward, because that's going to be key to your success. And certainly in the job sector, if you're looking for work, if you can tell recruiters that you are a people person and this is how you handle them, recruiters are going to look at you a lot quicker than what they are, as opposed to your normal standard resume. So much qualifications, so much experience. So yeah, that's my final thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's good advice. Career fluidity, upward employment mobility, these are very important critical success factors. So thank you for that. Graeme, so if we would like to enroll for any of your programs, how do we contact you? What's the best platform? Should we drop you an email, give you a buzz? Should we go onto your website? What is the most efficient platform if we're interested in enrolling for one of these people management or generic management skills? I think, like you said, the beauty of your service offering is that you offer both bespoke, customized, tailor-made programs, but you also offer a vast array of accredited programs. So you are spoiled for choice if you partner with Graeme Lategan. GL
You
Training
are right.
Consulting.
But then again, there's many companies, phenomenal training companies out there
Yes.
that offer very similar services. So, you know, we are a dime a dozen, but it's a matter of just picking the right company that suits your company and the extension of your business for that matter. But you can get hold of me through my website, which is www.trainskills.co.za. Very easy. And of course, I prefer the email route because then we've got it on record. So info at my name, graemelategan.com, pretty simple. And if you have to phone me, I do advertise that I'm available 24/7, but it's not actually the case. I need to. My wife says I need to rest sometimes, but be that as it may. No,
which is good advice. Like you said, you need to practice what you preach, and of course, you said there's almost this convergence of your personal and professional life, which has almost become unavoidable. A lot of us, for a number of years, not just COVID-19 induced, but we have worked from home. So just striking that work-life balance. And I'm surprised you haven't mentioned the support that you get from Charmaine. It's not only your wife and life partner, but also your business partner. So
without her, this business wouldn't be successful.
Absolutely. So when she talks, you need to listen, my friend. You need to relax more.
Most of the time.
Graeme, it's been fantastic. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your career journey, not only this training chapter, but also before that, your wisdom, your expertise. We really do appreciate it. It's contributed to the series of Talking to the Titans of Training. You are indeed a titan of training. I cannot continue to sing your praises. You're a dynamo, very enthusiastic, very passionate about the industry. I've said it to you many times. You are indeed an authentic ambassador and servant of the global learning and development community. So thank you for your time and sharing your story, as you would say. It's been very interesting. It's been very stimulating. Best of luck navigating through the COVID-19 challenges and the next wave of change. Like you said, it's a relentless industry. So thank you for that. And I'm sure you'll be supporting the initiative with the upcoming and future interviews. So thank you for your time. It's been splendid.
No, thanks, Charles. I really appreciate it. And what you're doing for the industry, lest we forget that you yourself are really and truly a superb titan as well. And many of us in this industry have learned a lot from you and what you are doing for this business. And we take our cue from that as well. But thank you very much. It's great to be on this platform. I'm honored, and I wish you all the best with your future titans. May they long and prosper.
Thank you, Graeme. It's been an absolute pleasure. You keep well. We'll stay in contact.
Bye.
Cheers. Just to conclude episode 2 of Talking to the Titans of Training, I'd just like to remind you of my 5 pillars of training subject matter expertise. You'll see I specialize in strategic human resources management, strategic learning and development, management and leadership development, also power skills and business communication. So please, you're welcome to contact me. Similar to Graeme, I've also shared my contact details, my social media presence. So you've got my cell phone number, my email address. Please, let's use YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel. Please nominate other Titans of Training so I can get in contact with them. Also, you find me very active on LinkedIn. You're welcome to connect. I'll certainly reciprocate. And also my company page, Dr. Charles Cotter and Business Associates. You'll also find me on Twitter, my Facebook company page, and also you'll find my sample of the body of my work on SlideShare. I've got well over 155 different SlideShare presentations. Very proud to say that I have over 750,000, 750,000 global views, almost 50,000 downloads of the portfolio of SlideShare presentations. Also very proud to claim that I've recently received accreditation as a trusted trainer through the Global Training Quality Assurance Body Course Conductor. So this is Dr. Charles Cotter signing out. I'd like to thank you for your time. Please like this video clip and please share it as widely as possible. Please include any questions that you may have. from this particular video clip, any questions that you would like to address to Graeme. You also have his contact details, and I look forward to the upcoming episodes of Talking to the Titans of Training.